morning, everyone. Good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. Welcome to Countdown to Game Day. I'm Christine Williamson. We got two Harrys here, Lyles and Douglas. What's good? We're in Dublin, Ireland, by the way.
Yes.
They don't say top of the morning to you, so I'm not going to say that. All right, how are you? Y'all good?
I'm feeling dangerous.
You got to be careful.
It's dangerous.
That's what our driver told us coming in, ladies and gentlemen. He told us to make sure that we are careful. It can be dangerous.
Yeah.
So we're excited to be here.
Let's talk a little bit more college football because obviously we're very excited about the season. And there's a lot of changes when it comes to this college football season that we're very excited about. Let's talk about Ohio State and Michigan. Obviously they loaded up this offseason, Ohio State did. They brought in a bunch of high-profile transfers. How much pressure, HG, do you think is on Ryan Day in this offense this season?
Extreme pressure. He has to win. When you look at the last few years, he hasn't been able to beat Michigan, the biggest rival, but you also look at not winning a national championship. And with the roster that he has right now, defensively, they have just about everybody coming back. And that was one of the top defensive teams in the country in 2023. But when you have a transfer in Quinshawn Judkins, you have Will Howard at the quarterback position, freshman wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. I'm really excited about him. You have all the talent. Now can you close the deal? Can you finish it? Can you seal the letter and mail it off?
I like that you said that. Seal the letter, mail it off. I feel like I haven't heard that before.
Old school.
Lyles, if they're not able to seal the letter and mail it off, what do they have to do on the other side of the ball in order to be successful?
It's that defense that HD mentioned. Ohio State has had great quarterbacks over the last 5 or 10 years. You think about a guy like Dwayne Haskins. You think about a C.J. Stroud. You think about a Justin Fields. And particularly those last two guys, they were great. The one thing that kind of held them back was that Ohio State defense was not up to their standard. And you talked about they've got 9 returning guys, and then you add Caleb Downs, one of the best players in all of college football. Like, they didn't need him, but they've got all-pro guys or future potential all-pro guys in the NFL at every single layer of that defense. So, look, Will Howard, there's probably going to be some sort of learning curve. There always is when you have these transfer quarterbacks. But to your point, he's got everything set up on that offense. And even if it takes them time to learn, that defense is going to be in a good spot to make, or at least make up for whatever mistakes they might make.
So when you think about their #1 rival, Michigan, obviously the CFP champions last season, the defending champions, but nobody has as high expectations as they have to figure out a lot of things for that team. So when you look at Michigan, do you think that they can play spoiler to an Ohio State team that has high expectations, HD?
Well, I don't know about spoiler, but here's the thing about their schedule. They have 3 games, and they play the #2 team in the country, which is Ohio State. They play the #3 team in the country at some point, which is Oregon, and then the #4 team in the country, which is Texas. And that Texas game is early on in the season. If the rest of the schedule, in my opinion, is easy, if you can find a way, if you're Michigan, to win one of those 3 games that I just mentioned, most likely you're going to be in the college football playoffs. But I think now with a lot of transition, Sharon Moore, I think he's going to be a phenomenal head coach. It's a lot of turnover on the roster as well. They still have a defensive line, secondary. They have some key pieces there. But I think quarterback position, right? How's the quarterback position going to look? You have Donovan Edwards. You're going to lean on the run game. A lot of guys on the offensive line are not returning. So how are you going to be able to replace that talent? But the quarterback position is far more important than anything.
So HG mentioned that they have to go up against Oregon, who is new to the Big Ten this season. But there's still high expectations for Oregon going into this season. What do you think those expectations are, Lyles?
I think for everybody, the basement is making the playoff. I think they can win the Big Ten. I really do. Like, there is a reason that one of Alabama's first calls was to Dan Lanning. Like, he is genuinely building something special up there at Oregon. And I think the key for them is their replacement for Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel, who has been playing college football since 2019, right? I saw one of his games personally. I believe it was 2021 when he was still at UCF, which feels like a long time ago now. His first game against Boise State, or their first game against Boise State that year. And just one of the toughest guys that I think I've ever watched in my 4 years doing sideline reporting. And so to have a guy like that, who, mind you, transferred to Oklahoma last year, went in and won the Red River rivalry against a Texas team that had just beaten Alabama and was riding one of the highest highs we saw all year last year. He's the type of guy to continue what they built up last year and try to make this wave in the Big Ten. So I'm personally going to pick them to win the Big Ten.
Do you agree with Lyles on that, with Dylan Gabriel?
100%. And Dylan Gabriel, he's such an Oregon quarterback, right? You got to think about what they had the last 2 years in Bo Nix, a guy that has conviction and decision-making, gets the ball out quick, very accurate. Gabriel completed 69% of his passes last year. That is unbelievable. 30 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. But here's what's unique about him. 12 rushing touchdowns.
Yes.
So when you get into the tight red zone, he's also a guy that can, do it with his legs as well and create when things aren't there.
Let's talk about another new head coach, which I feel like this is one of the most interesting conversations this college football season. Obviously, Nick Saban is now one of our colleagues out here this weekend and every weekend. Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama. A lot of people feel like he's not going to be able to do what he was able to do at Washington in the SEC. What are your expectations from DeBoer and this Alabama football team this season?
I've got high expectations. And it's because of how he coaches and his track record. Everywhere he's gone, typically his team has struggled in that first year. And then after that, they're cooking, right? I mean, and we saw that with Washington, and you saw what he was able to do with Michael Penix and get the most out of him. We saw how hot Jalen Milroe finally got and how quickly he improved, because a lot of people forget he got benched last year, right? And then came on and was a legitimate Heisman candidate. So when you have that skill set and a player that is able to improve in that way, because not all players are able to do that, a guy that is able to improve that way with a coach who knows how to get the most out of his players, look, they might not win the national championship this year. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
It's going to be I think it's going to be a better year for them than I think a lot of people honestly expect.
I mean, Kalen DeBoer had a better year than them last season, so that makes sense. But what do you think is a successful season for Alabama this year?
College football playoffs.
Okay.
Now, and I understand, ladies and gentlemen, I know y'all watching right now, college football playoffs, it's national championship, and we're done. Relax, everyone. You also have to let reality sink in, right?
Yeah.
And you got to understand that he's coming to a new team. You have some important pieces. Isaiah Bond is a huge loss, right?
Huge.
He's now at the University of Texas over there with Steve Sarkisian. But you have the quarterback. You have Jalen Milroe. And I want to see what Kalen DeBoer is going to be able to do with him at that position. So I would say not national championship, which is crazy to say when we're talking about University of Alabama.
Right.
But I would say making the college football playoffs is a successful season in 2024.
Especially at that particular job, because we were talking about this yesterday. Typically, if you go look at the history of University of Alabama, a new head coach's first year is terrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, usually making a bowl game would be good, and it's easy to forget that because of our colleague and what he did there the last 15 years. But if they are able to make the playoff, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what the word is? And my counselor talks about this all the time. Grace. You have to give them grace,
I
right?
like
Because
that.
this is year one.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the CFP is a lot different this year. We have 12 teams going into the playoffs, so it kind of gives them a better opportunity in some ways, depending on how things shake out. All right, let's talk about the SEC as a whole. Lyles, it looks a lot different this year. What team are you paying attention to as we go into the season?
The team that I'm paying attention to, the one that's under the radar for me is Mizzou.
Okay.
I think Georgia's going to be there. I think Texas is going to be there. And then we've got this weird tier, right, where it's like who else is going to step up? Because I don't think any of us would be surprised if the SEC gets 3. A lot of people would make an argument for 4. Missouri's schedule is light. I know they lost Cody Schrader in the backfield, and that's a big loss. They still got Luther Burden III, who, I'm sure during the year you'll see HD break down some tape on him. We're all blessed to have that. They added 2 guys in their backfield, though, that I think is going to help. It might not replace everything that Cody Schrader had, but Nate Noel, who is a really good rusher from App State, and Marcus Carroll from Georgia State. Those are 2 guys. If we're talking about keeping them fresh and rotating those backs, I don't want to say that it's going to be a 1-for-1, but if you're replacing that looks like a pretty darn good replacement to me.
Who are you looking at?
For me, it's Ole Miss. And I think what Lane Kiffin has figured out is that you just can't be an offensive juggernaut. You have to, on the defensive side of the ball, get stops. And they have a ton of transfers, #1 transfer class in college football this season. But when I look at their offense, and you have Jackson Dart, but you have Trey Harris, Juice Wells from South Carolina transfer. You have Jordan Watkins, who was there last year. This could be a big year for Lane Kiffin. And ladies and gentlemen, if it is, it'll be interesting to see if it's his last year at Ole Miss.
Asterisk. Noted. Let's talk about the other teams that just got added to the SEC. Obviously, we mentioned that the SEC looks a lot different this year. Texas and Oklahoma coming over from the Big 12. Lyles, what are your expectations for those 2 teams in the Southern Eastern Conference?
So for me, I kind of look at Texas similarly to the way I look at Oregon in the Big Ten. We expect Ohio State to be there. We expect Georgia to be there. Oregon's going to be there. Texas has to be there.
Yeah.
Like, anything other than the playoff is a failure for this team. The talent is there. Quinn Ewers is back. I think he's going to have a monster season. The thing that's going to be interesting to me is Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You got Jackson Arnold. You've got a new offensive coordinator since Jeff Levy's over there at Mississippi State. How are they going to mesh with him and Seth Littrell? And then their schedule is also really tough, man. For Oklahoma, this first year,
Yeah.
like, hey, man, Brent Venables, I think he could get it done, and if he keeps his chances, it's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he could have gotten dealt a worse first
100%.
hand moving into the SEC.
Yeah.
And I'll say, when it comes to Texas, I expect Texas to be in the SEC championship with Georgia. Those are the expectations. Now, before C.J. Baxter got hurt and he's out for the year, they were 2-3 deep at the running back position. They're going to have to figure some things out now because they not only have one running back hurt, they have two of them hurt now. I think when you look at the wide receiver position, being able to get, you got three of them that went to the draft, had a tight end that went into the draft, but you were able to go into the transfer portal and bring three more solid guys in, and also a solid tight end from Alabama. So I think Quinn Ewers, how quickly receivers, tight end, are we going to see that rhythm on game day when it comes to those guys? But I expect Texas to be right then and there. It wouldn't surprise me if they won the SEC. I do believe that's going to be Georgia, but if Texas won that game, it wouldn't surprise me, and it wouldn't surprise me if Texas won a national championship either.
Very high expectations for Texas. TBD on Oklahoma. We'll see. You know, we're in Dublin, Ireland. One of the main places that people come here to visit is the Guinness Storehouse. I got to hang out there. Check this out. What is up, everybody? As you know, we're in Dublin, Ireland. Right now, we're at the Guinness Storehouse, the #1 tourist attraction here in Dublin. It had 1.7 million people visit. Just add 2 to that, me and Chris Cologne, who's behind the camera. We're here for good reason. Obviously, a lot of people come here. We're going to go hang out with the Guinness Brewery ambassador, Colin. He's going to show us all the cool things and the reason this place is tied in to the football game on Saturday.
The harp has actually been a national symbol of Ireland, even going back to when we were under British rule, you know, going back to the 1500s. So it has been very much, you know, synonymous with Ireland. And when Guinness wanted to, they were thinking of bringing out a logo in the 1860s. The chairman at the time was Benjamin Lee Guinness, and he loved one particular harp, which is called the Brian Boru harp. Very old harp, 14th century harp. Still resides in Trinity College, believe it or not. There's a little bit of a curveball in the story because when Ireland got its independence from Britain in 1922, they wanted to adopt a new symbol for all of the new passports and the new coins and the new, you know, state stationery and all the rest of it. So they basically said, we'll take the same harp, but what the Free State are going to do, this is Guinness talking here, they said, you take the harp, what you do is just turn it around. So there's no conflict. You know, legally it's a different, you know, essentially it's a different logo. So if you look at the Guinness harp, and you'll see it, well, you'll see it virtually everywhere. Yeah. You see the soundboard, which is on the left-hand side, here. But if I take out a euro coin, this one's an Irish euro coin, you'll see that the soundboard is actually on the other side. It's on the right-hand side. So there's no conflict at all. So same harp, just turn it around, something totally different. Yeah. Do you know what they call that, Christine? What? An Irish solution to an Irish problem. There's no better example than that. Okay, want to give it a go then? I'll stand on this side, is that okay? Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. Excellent. So pretty good. Here, exactly. So around about 45 degrees. So pull it all the way down, sorry, all the way down, keep going, keep going, keep going. Now, you can take your hand off that tap. That tap doesn't need your hand just yet. Now, what you want to do is you just want to straighten it up. That's it, ever so slightly. Beautiful. Really good. 3, 2, 1, and then flip it back. Beautiful. No, great. I'm scared. Just in time. No, that was, have you ever poured a bunny? No. You could have fooled me. Absolutely fantastic. So as we say here in Ireland, Christine, sláinte. You're very welcome to get a storehouse. Sláinte. Sláinte. Sláinte, the most important word in the English language because you'll be using it in the bars all the time, and it means health. It's health in Irish. Sláinte. Sláinte, exactly. So sláinte will come out. Sláinte. Sláinte. Big mouthful, that's it, yeah. That's it, yeah. You got a handlebar.